How is up, everyone? Today, while autoing Tempest Trials, we're going to have a little discussion on the topic of speed. Now, normally I would be talking about the Tempest Trials proper, but as you can see, the rewards are very... even Speed Wave and Speed Death Bond, there's really not much to talk about, and I already talked much about Hinata and his fun little weapon, so there's really not much to add. But speed itself is quite an important topic, so we're just going to go through that while I auto with these guys. Hopefully they'll do fine. So I've been thinking about this lately because normally one of the first questions someone would ask me when it comes to building a character is, hey, what IV should I use? Well, IVs are generally pretty obvious. I mean, sometimes, hey, your character has very low speed, then generally you would pick something like attack. Or say, for example, they have a super boon, or they needed to balance their defenses, or they need to focus their defenses. It's really not that hard to figure out what to do when it comes to your IVs. But one thing that really stands out, though, is when your character is fast, or moderately fast, then you have to make a decision between attack and speed. So, one of the things I've been thinking about is this. Remember that time when I summoned heavily for Edelgard, and, well, that's because Edelgard is part of the package with Legendary Celica and Nagi, I ended up plus 10ing them both as well? Well, there's that. And one of the major things was that, hey, someone's like, oh yeah, imagine picking plus speed instead of plus attack with Celica. I think to myself, is this really so bad though? Because one of the problems that we now have to put up with these days, I mean, this isn't like 2018 where, oh yeah, everyone can just negate the shit out of getting doubled, or they have some means of doubling whenever they get attacked, so speed doesn't matter. It's not like that. Those days are long gone now that we have the introduction of fun toys such as no follow-up. I mean, there are ways to circumvent this back then as well, because you could, say for Hector's case, since his weapon comes with quick riposte, you could give him Worry Fighter, and then another quick riposte, so that he would have this amazing ability to strike out with a basically completely an Omni Breaker. He can basically completely cover pretty much any other attack that goes to him and negate any follow-up attack, and comes back with 2 of his own. That's disgusting. Omni Breaker was one of Hector's most powerful strategies, and one of the reasons why I like him so much. Because that's a strategy that only him and a select few characters can do. Which is kind of funny, because eventually Roy ended up being able to do that, but he doesn't have Worry Fighter, which is a little unfortunate. So, yeah, in terms of actually being able to pull it off, Hector is the one that stands out the most. But Roy did get Quick Riposte, so he could stack Quick Riposte. He just can't negate enemy doubles that easily. But now that we have Resplendent Roy, well, that's another story altogether. Because Resplendent Roy is quite fast. If you were to give him flowers, if you were to get his Resplendent and you put him to plus 10, which is very easy, he has a pretty decent speed of 39 base. 39 base speed. And then you also have to add to the fact that you can give him plus speed. So he has like 40 something, which isn't like so very bad. You can adjust it with things like, like darting stance and such like that. And he'll be able to negate double attacks coming his way, and he will be able to pull back. He'll be able to pay back with quick riposte. And if the enemy has some means to negate this, say for example Edelgard with her Amir, well, that still doesn't matter, because if you have 2 quick riposte, you cancel Amir's effect, and then you still have another quick riposte to rip her face off. So that's why I'm not like that big in favor of Amir. There's a whole lot of other reasons too, because of the fact that she's armored, and being armored means you're pretty much prey to anyone who has armor effectiveness. And she doesn't. Well, she's got that Achilles heel. So if someone can negate her double, her double negating, she only has like 19 speed, and that's with plus 10. And yeah, that's pretty deplorable. She's one of those. No, probably. I think she's tied with some of the slowest characters in the game, such as Arden. So she's pretty bad, and that's what happens when your stats are completely min-maxed. So that's another matter as well that I've been thinking about. You see, when you min-max stats like that, right, they have to go somewhere. So they ended up going mostly to her attack, giving her the highest attack in the game, but that's still not enough, because she's got, 180 BST? So then you have to look at, Dev, and res, and such like that, and that splits pretty much half the stats apart. And then you also have to consider this, alright? The fact that she's got 19 speed is, well, min-max, yes, but, well, see, that doesn't matter, because that speed is still wasted. Unless you have 0 speed, any other speed points that you have is pretty much wasted, because, well, you're the slowest character in the game. It's really completely pointless to have any speed whatsoever. So speed is funny in that it's wasted BST for some people, something like Edelgard, which is a little unfortunate, but now you gotta balance it some way, right? On the other hand, with characters who actually have good speed, it actually means that their BST is being properly distributed. So characters such as that Roy that I just talked about, not only does he have good dev, good res, but he also have pretty serviceable speed. And if you were to give him just a minimal amount of support, he can reach to 50 speed with no problem. And that brings me to my next point. So, something I noticed with a lot of people is that they sometimes they do stack speed, but most of the time I see people generally float around like the 50 range or 50 something range. You don't usually see people like stack speed so much. Like, you wouldn't say keep his darting stance with Alm unless you don't really have a darting stance. Darting blow with Alm because you have better options. So you can do more damage. And this idea of doing more damage, well, then sometimes you run into situations where you actually don't do more damage because you can't actually double. And that's why I've been thinking to myself, hey, is this speed really that unnecessary? Like, look at Ultimate Magic Bike now. Thanks to his speed and the fact that he has phantom speed, he's able to tank all manners of nonsense. And even like red units have to bow down to him because he just absorbs things, and it's ridiculous. Even if they double him, it just absorbs it. And of course, he also has that ability. So this Ultimate Magic Bike is one of the strongest units in the game. And even if they guarantee double for whatever reason, he just sucks it up. It just sucks it all up. And that's why Speed Bike is the strongest build in the whole game. There are still people these days who, well, don't think this way. They would give me shit about, running a character like that who's kind of slow, but in actuality, you can actually make him kind of fast. Because of Phantom Speed and all the other fun stuff, you can cause him to tank way more damage than he should normally be able to tank. So, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to making IVs, I feel like speed is becoming more and more important, especially now these days we have no follow-up and such like that. No follow-up in of itself is very powerful too, because it's a defensive skill as well. Just being able to stop the enemy from doubling you with their guaranteed doubles on top of doubling others, yeah, that's pretty scary. It's if you have the speed, it's actually a really useful skill to have. And that's why I've been thinking to myself, maybe I'm just going to ignore what these people say. Yeah, I mean, I would do a little bit more damage with Celica if I were to choose plus attack. But let's just say I've run into many situations where, oh hey, I actually won't be able to double no matter how hard I try. So, I don't know. And I mean, the other thing that Celica has is that her speed has a super boon to it. So there's really no reason why I don't know, to choose plus attack. There's a lot of times where I overdo it when I attack as well. There's these times where I just kind of like, oh, well, looks like I overshot a bit. It looks like I didn't even need that much attack. Whereas if I didn't have the speed, I would not have been able to double them. I mean, like I said, 50-something seems to be, where generally a lot of the speedier characters seems to float around. But if you were to suddenly show up with like 60 speed, 65 speed, then you teach your opponent a painful lesson. Like my bike, when it comes to defense, he can gain up to, I even use him for 8th or 8 offense with peonies and more. He can easily reach like 50 speed. Then you add the phantom speed, which I add on there purposely, by the way. Even though he doesn't really need it anymore because of all the peonies and the Yuns on his defense. He can still negate damage from people who, even some people who could double him. Because they would have to reach 10. They would have to be able to match that 10 extra speed. So even if they were to double, they would still end up getting about 20% of the damage negated. So, yeah, speed is pretty scary, especially now with repel and close call. I've been just thinking about stopping characters who build like that. And if Celica does not have enough speed to take care of these guys, she dies. I mean, she's already got a major problem of her own in that she doesn't have enough defense. Because she's got, 22 defense as a plus 10 character? That's not a lot. So usually what ends up happening is that when I try to fight someone, oh, hey, she's going to get one-shotted. And one of the solutions I have found is to either run Sturdy Impact or Sturdy Blow as a seal. And that in itself already cuts her speed. So why would I want to lose even more speed by taking a route like those people suggested and going attack instead? Now, I wouldn't say that going attack is necessarily wrong either. I mean, it is 6 extra damage, and, that could make a difference between, hey, is this guy going to die, or, I'm going to leave this guy 1 HP, and then some stupid Wings of Mercy shenanigan happens. That also is a thing, too. But it also depends entirely on the character. Celica has a very good tendency of overdoing it, because Celica has a stupid weapon effect where, hey guys, I've got a moonbow on every one of my attacks. So, Celica, I think I'm probably going to keep her at plus speed. I'm actually even thinking about doing the same thing with Alm, because Alm I built up with plus attack. Though for now I keep it because, well, I have a plus speed Alm, on standby. Because I wasn't certain if I was going to go with that IV. I still ended up plus 10ing anyway, but I have an extra one. It's kind of a waste, though, to just toss it away, so I've been kind of like, should I have done that? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? Maybe what I might just do is just keep his darting, just use his darting blow if necessary. Because right now he's running attack speed push. Though attack speed push in itself is very nice. It saved my ass that time when I was doing the arena. And what ended up happening was, if Marth had doubled him, he would have died an extremely painful death. But thanks to, and he was slower than Marth quite a bit. His speed was like, what, 44? 44 speed. Because most of his other speed are like in combat speed. And if I had stuck with using something like Swift Sparrow 3 on the defense, for whatever reason, if he was to get hit, he would have died. And that particular situation where I have attack speed push, luckily I was just able to survive that because of attack speed push giving me like 50 speed. But what if later on I run into people who have more? Yeah, see, that's a problem. It always bothers me. And it makes me feel that maybe I should start investing on plus speed characters instead of plus attack as often. Not to mention, I mean, like, a lot of these characters now have super boons in speed because they were purposely made that way. Back in the day, when we had, like, characters with super boons, they were, like, all over the place. Some of them are defense, some of them are, like, resistance, some of them are speed, and attack, but usually it's, like, guys with, like, 25 speed goes to, like, 29, because of some mathematics that I wasn't too sure of. Case in point, back then the IVs were not placed in like their most ideal position. So now, with the speed super boon as well as a thing, I just can't seem to justify holding out on 41 times 2, holding out on speed just because I want to hit a little bit harder. Yeah, I mean, back then we had the concept of, oh yeah, okay, alright, you have too much speed. And then what ends up happening is that it's wasted. Speed has always been a very weird statistic. It's always been kind of weird because of how this has been calculated. But the more I feel about it, I think that having more speed means more security. I mean, I guess you could still end up with too much, given that you might end up with a character with like 70 speed if you overdo it. But generally, if you were to overshoot, like my earlier example with Darting Blow, well, actually, I don't think he would even overshoot just because he went to plus attack. I would say with Celica might be an issue, but I don't know. It's just when I see characters like Fallen Ike who just like completely designed around blocking damage with Repel, and how easily I defeated him with Sharina because of Sharina's weapon being able to provide speed bond. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think her weapon is speed death bond, so it's not like the best weapon in the world, but hey, guess what? It worked out. It worked out for her. And thanks to being able to match or even exceed Fallen Ike's speed, she was able to teach him a painful lesson. And that's how I was able to clear that story. I wouldn't say record time, but much easier than I would have normally had if, say, his damages starts getting negated. Because even that 4% reduction, right, from just having one speed over is pretty nasty. It'll screw up your calculation. How is 3 attack going to compare to that? It's not, because, it's it's 4% out of your entire attack stock. And then, you also, 1 speed is not something that happens a lot much. Usually it's like a lot more speed. So once it starts adding up, you can't help but think that, maybe it's better to just be safe and have a little bit more extra speed. So, I don't know. I can't help but think that maybe nowadays it's probably better to invest on speed rather than attack like I normally would have. If I could change the IVs of my characters, I would have loved to do that. But, well, these days we still can't change our IVs. This is a little unfortunate. So we have to make do with what we can get. Now, I don't know how things with characters like Brahmiman would go down the line, because currently only Brahmiman has the ability to negate support skills, like in-combat support skills, like drive speed and such like that. So if they introduce other characters who can negate such things, it could be that, yeah, you really need to boost up your speed. It's, even now, I mean, my bike is not plus speed. I kind of wish he was. But, yeah. And look, if I was not fast enough, Aira would have kicked my ass. Yeah, I need that security. Because characters like Sothis as well. Sothis is very, very powerful. I mean, it's not just because that she's got no weakness. She's also fast. And one of the most important things about Sothis is that she's dragon still. She just doesn't count as dragon for weaknesses. So what that means is, if you were to say you have like a Kana, or I think Kana gives gold dragon, right? Or something. Let me check, actually. I'm going to check right now, because this Kana's probably stock, and I'll be able to check and see the truth for myself. But man, just look at these guys tossing themselves in. Yep, gold dragon, as I remembered. So you can stack some serious speed on Sothis, and Sothis can run no follow-up, even though she can't run close call and such like that. Being able to negate enemy doubling on her just because is very scary. And that is also why Belith, God Belith, is so incredibly powerful, because he can negate as part of his weapon, and then he can still run close call and such like that. It's disgusting. It's wrong. And as infantry currently, there's no weaknesses. But yeah, Sothis though. Sothis does have that bonus with gold dragon or ward dragon. So she can really put that speed of hers to use. Even without the assistance of gold dragon, she's still very fast and tough to take down by speed. So yeah, if I had run attack, I don't think I would have gotten as good results as I normally would. I mean, that is not to say, you know, we should ignore plus attack setup as well. I mean, sometimes you just kind of don't have a choice. But when you do have a choice, you have to seriously consider how much speed your character actually has and what you can do with this character. Because Gold Dragon and Ward Dragon is seriously powerful. Allowing infantry, just because they're dragons, to take advantage of these class buffs is disgusting. It's absolutely deplorable. Whereas other infantry would have to put up with drive speed and such like that. She gets 4 more attack on top of it, and it's just disgusting. But anyway, I think that's about it, really, about the whole speed thing. I mean, nowadays, you have a lot of characters with guaranteed doubles, but there's so many ways to break them as well. And having the speed means that when things are negated, you have ways to defend yourself. Of course, you know, I mean, if you end up having to pick an IV for a character like Edelgard, it's obvious that you would go for attack and nothing else. And I mean, there are certain characters who benefit more from their attack than they would with their speed. Like healers, for example, they heal more because they have more attack. And not to mention, healers, well, they get to use the supreme technique of 6 Paths of Pain Plus. If Kranya, you can pick an IV for her, I would probably still go for attack, because characters who uses Vantage and 6 Paths of Pain Plus benefits a great deal from attack rather than from speed. Although having speed also could mean that, hey, if a close call opponent comes towards her, her damage doesn't get completely screwed up. So the choice is not that tough, but it's still there. If you end up getting something else besides plus attack, it's not a big deal. It's just that it would be nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it of my talk about speed. I mean, IVs are still going to be kind of difficult to pick from time to time, but generally you should have like an idea of what to use. I don't know why I went on a whole thing on speed, but I just can't help it, because I'm thinking about building like an entire armor battalion, right? With Hector, with Burger King, with Joseph Arden, and stack them with gold armor. Gold armor is easy to come by now, and like back then when it was only tied down to Hector, so I can stack that shit really, really high. And it's actually kind of disturbing just thinking about it, because think about it like this, alright? 3 other allies with you, that's 12 speed right there. And Burger King himself comes with how much speed? He starts off with like 35 or 34 or some shit like that. So that already puts him at 46 speed, a pretty competitive speed. And that's only at like +0. So he can reach 50 speed right there, just from being near his armor allies. And then some, he has distant counter. So having distant counter means a very useful thing. He can actually run something like Sylvain's shield. I don't remember how to pronounce the actual name of the shield, but he can use something like Sylvain's shield in his A slot, and then any armor effectiveness against him will be gone. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but it actually is, because armor has something ridiculously powerful, and that is called the special fighter. Not only do you negate stupid skill charge attacks, but you also build up skill charge of your own. Special fighter is crazy broken, and just for a low cost of sacrificing an A slot, you now have an armor unit that isn't afraid of getting murdered by these things. And now you also have to count having 50 speed, having that stupid special fighter. Anytime somebody goes and attack Burger King, they're going to get Black Luna. They're going to enjoy a wonderful taste of Black Luna. And that same goes with Hector as well. And Hector himself already has a weapon that allows him to do quick riposte. So, say if someone were to have something that negates double, like Edelgard, for example. Hey, guess what? I don't give a shit. I'm Hector. I'm going to cancel that and I'm going to beat you over the head. But, of course, Edelgard's slow, so that's not that great of a response. But someone else could probably be able to do it a little bit better. Let me think. Someone a little more middling. Like, say, for example, T-Barn. T-Barn could get his ass kicked by that. Yeah, T-Barn doubles, so what? He doesn't care. Motherfucking Hector, I got a million defenses. I have my special fighter, so if you try to Gale Force off of me, you can't. So, yeah. I'm kind of boned, right? Yep, there you are. But fucking Hector uses a bonfire, and then your face gets ripped off. So, having speed on him is actually really scary. He has 34 speed, I think, with plus 10, and then you also have to add to the fact that you can give him flowers and yada yada yada, and his resplendent things, and then you add the gold armor shit. He's going to be at like 50 something speed. It's nothing to do about it. So unless they start introducing more stuff that stops it out of combat stuff, in combat stuff like Brahmimani, you're going to look at some really scary characters that can actually devastate the countryside. Whereas nowadays, I'm actually kind of worried for characters who are slow, because Ashnard and Edelgard, while they're strong, if they end up fighting someone with close with close call or repel or bike, they're gonna run into serious trouble. They won't be able to do much of anything to them. They can, most of the damage that they pride on will just get negated. And that is why slow characters currently are starting to worry me. I hope that one day slower characters have more counters to such plays. Currently only Altina has it, and that's through her dual blades. But we need like something else that could do it. Maybe like some kind of like Ruptured Sky-esque thing, but instead of like doing extra damage to animals and dragons and such like that, it just goes and breaks damage reduction or something like that. Although, that kind of shit will also come at a price, and that is summoning a stupid 5-star character to get it. Just like with Ruptured Sky. That's the problem with this game in general. Most of the counters and counters and counters, they all exist in like one place, and that is 5-star summoning. Though, now, with the way the game is, maybe it's not so bad, because now I can, if I do 140 orbs, I can go ahead and grab myself Ruptured Sky and Fury 4, or I can get the Lols, though I don't like Lols all that much. While Lols will help you with the speed thing, it doesn't help you with the skill charge thing. And negating enemy skill charge is something I value very highly. Because right now, a bunch of characters, what you do is you hit them once, and they pay you back with, well, with a bonfire or something stupid like that. And then you die. That's like basically the whole shtick with Rinka. That's her whole shtick. You hit her, she gives you a bonfire with wrath behind it. You die. Sothis does the same shit. So, I mean, it's kind of nasty. It's really, really nasty. That's the way that things are set up right now. But if you were to have Guard or Special Fighter, they can't do that. They die. And most of the time, they won't be using something like Heavy Blade or Flashing Blade because they don't need it. See, that's the thing. Because they don't need it, they naturally won't have Guard against it. But, hey, if you're something like with Burger King with Special Fighter, which you can negate and pay him back at the same time, then you have something worth discussing about. And you know what? Burger King would have had a great deal of trouble with killing someone with Black Luna if his damage gets reduced. Because damage reduction, you know, it's just something that just negates the whole damage altogether. So his Black Luna, despite the fact that it removes their defenses and such, doesn't really mean anything, because the raw damage get reduced. So that's why speed is so scary, and that is why Special Fighter, to go with that, is so scary, and is why I'm going to do a whole armor line running that garbage soon. But anyway, that's something we can discuss about later, and that's pretty much it for my little discussion. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.